She believed a few well-placed words would be enough to get a black man removed from first class, until he calmly reached into his pocket and revealed his FBI badge. Patricia Langford glided through Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, her high-end carry-on rolling effortlessly behind her. She had flown this route more times than she could count, Dallas to Washington, D.C., always in first class. It was the only way she traveled. To her, the process had become routine: early boarding, complimentary champagne, soft-spoken conversations among elite professionals. She expected peace, privacy, and luxury. But as she approached her assigned seat, she froze slightly. Sitting beside it was a black man in a sharp navy suit. He exuded calm authority, focused on the open laptop before him, eyes scanning the screen intently. Patricia's mouth tightened. She placed her designer bag down with more force than necessary and sat, barely hiding her displeasure. This wasn't the first-class experience she envisioned. Daniel Stokes, the man next to her, remained unbothered. He typed fluidly, immersed in his work. The light from his screen highlighted his features and gave him an air of someone who clearly belonged. Patricia didn't buy it. She shifted in her seat and accidentally bumped his armrest with her purse. No reaction. She straightened her back, hoping a flight attendant would take notice of the situation. Then, she leaned in just slightly. "Excuse me," she said in a polite but pointed tone, "are you sure this is your seat?" Daniel didn't look up. "Yes," he replied simply, offering no explanation. Patricia cleared her throat, scanning the cabin. A flight attendant, Emily Jacobs, professional and courteous, was nearby assisting other passengers. Patricia raised her hand subtly to flag her down. Daniel let out a quiet sigh as Emily approached with her practiced smile. "Is everything all right, Patricia gave a soft laugh, feigning amusement. "I think there's been a small mix-up. I believe this gentleman is in the wrong seat." Emily glanced at Daniel, who finally looked up. His expression was calm and unreadable, no confusion, no surprise. Just a steady look. Emily pulled out her tablet and checked the manifest. "Actually," she said after a moment, "Mr. Stokes is in the correct seat. You're assigned to 2A, and he's in 2B. Patricia blinked, her grip tightening on the armrest. "That's strange," she said with a nervous chuckle. "Are you certain?" "I just assumed," Emily, sensing the true undertone, kept her tone neutral. "Everything checks out, Patricia's carefully composed face twitched before she forced another tight smile. "Well, I suppose mistakes happen," she muttered and turned toward the window. But she wasn't letting this go. Daniel returned to his work, ignoring the tension. Emily gave him a quick professional nod before stepping away. Patricia, meanwhile, was fuming internally. Her fingers tapped restlessly against her knee. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. Daniel's silence, his refusal to justify himself, infuriated her even more. He wasn't playing along, and that was unacceptable to her. Unwilling to let it drop, Patricia pressed the call button. A soft chime sounded overhead. Moments later, Emily returned, her demeanor unchanged. "Can I help you with something, Keeping her tone low and composed, Patricia responded, "I'd like to change seats." Emily blinked. "Is there a problem with the seat?" There was a brief pause. Patricia couldn't say what she really meant. Instead, she leaned slightly toward Emily and whispered, "I just don't feel comfortable sitting here." Emily's pleasant expression dimmed slightly. "I'm sorry to hear that. If there's a technical issue, no, it's not the seat," Patricia cut in quickly. She let out a sharp breath. "I just prefer another spot." Emily's eyes flicked to Daniel, who had paused again, but still said nothing. He watched silently, hands hovering over his keyboard. "Let me check for any available seats," Emily replied, tapping her tablet. Patricia sat stiffly, lips pursed. People nearby had started to notice. A man nearby pretended to scroll his phone, while a woman across the aisle nudged her husband. After a moment, Emily looked up. Unfortunately, first class is full. There are no open seats. Patricia's stomach dropped. Emily continued gently, I can look for a spot in economy, if you'd like. Her face flushed. Economy? As if that were even an option. That won't be necessary, she stammered. Then I trust you're okay remaining in your assigned seat, Emily said with a polite smile. Patricia forced a brittle smile. I suppose I don't have a choice. Emily nodded. Let me know if you need anything else. She walked off, but Patricia hardly noticed. Her ears were ringing. Daniel simply went back to typing. He stayed silent, turned back to his laptop, and resumed typing. That was his response, nothing more. He acted like she didn't even exist. Patricia's hands clenched into fists. This wasn't over. With a sharp breath, she hit the call button again. This time, Emily paused before returning. Yes, she asked politely. Patricia straightened her posture. I need to speak to someone in authority. Emily's tone remained composed. I'm the head flight attendant on this flight. Is there something you'd like clarified? Patricia's voice grew sharper. I need to talk to the lead crew member or the pilot. A few passengers murmured nearby. Someone even chuckled softly. Emily kept her professional expression, but her patience was clearly running low. The pilot is preparing for departure and isn't available. But I'm here to help however I can. Patricia tightened her jaw. Daniel showed no signs of distress, no nerves, no discomfort. He looked like someone who had experienced this before. Lowering her voice, Patricia added, I don't feel safe. That changed everything. Emily's polite smile faded, and she tensed slightly. Daniel's fingers paused above his keyboard. Across the aisle, a man with a Bluetooth earpiece muttered, Here we go again. Emily stood up straighter. I'm sorry, Can you clarify what you mean by that? Patricia folded her hands in her lap and tilted her head. I just don't feel comfortable. She paused, her hesitation loaded with implication. I'm not trying to cause trouble, but maybe someone else could sit here. Daniel shut his laptop. This time, he looked her directly in the eyes. For the first time, Patricia felt a flicker of doubt. But she wasn't letting it go, and now her voice was rising. The words, I don't feel safe, lingered heavily in the air. Quiet, but deliberate. A strategic phrase meant to provoke action. Emily stood beside her, unmoving, her eyes locked on Daniel. He had closed his laptop completely and placed his hands on top. He wasn't smiling or frowning, just watching Patricia closely. Patricia held her ground. Emily asked carefully, Are you saying you feel threatened? Patricia gave a tiny shrug, her tone vague. I'm not saying that. I just don't feel comfortable. The businessman across the aisle let out an audible scoff. A young woman a few rows back tilted her phone slightly, pretending to text but clearly recording. More passengers turned to look. The atmosphere was shifting. And Patricia felt it. She continued, keeping her voice falsely pleasant. This is a simple request. I'm only asking for a reasonable solution. If I'm uncomfortable, shouldn't I be allowed to move? Emily's jaw set. As I mentioned earlier, there are no empty seats in first class. Patricia's lips tightened. And in coach? Emily paused. There are 2 available seats in economy. Patricia straightened up. Great. He can take one. A ripple of murmurs spread across the cabin. Daniel took a slow breath. He tapped his laptop once, then let his hands fall still. He didn't say anything. And he didn't move. Emily blinked, processing what she had just heard. She said, her voice firmer now, just so I'm clear, you're asking me to relocate this gentleman to coach because you don't want to sit next to him. Patricia nodded confidently. Yes. Emily took a steady breath through her nose. That's not going to happen. Patricia snapped her head up. Excuse me. Emily clasped her hands in front of her. Mr. Stokes purchased a first-class ticket and is in the correct seat. I will not, and cannot, ask him to move. Patricia's cheeks flushed. The cabin was no longer quiet. People were watching. Some whispering, some shaking their heads. The woman with the phone was still filming. This wasn't going the way Patricia expected. She could feel the control slipping. This is absurd, she hissed. I'm asking for the same consideration anyone else would get if they felt uncomfortable. Emily didn't flinch. You're requesting I remove a ticketed first-class passenger and place him in economy with no legitimate reason. That isn't a request. That's discrimination. A hush swept through the plane. Someone gave a low whistle. Daniel hadn't moved or spoken. He just kept his eyes on her. Patricia's heart pounded. This wasn't how it was supposed to unfold. Emily stood tall. We are about to taxi. If you're unable to remain in your seat and follow the crew's directions, I'll have to ask you to leave the aircraft. Patricia's stomach dropped. What? Emily's tone was firm but calm. You have two choices, stay seated quietly, or deplane. But Mr. Stokes is not moving. Scattered claps echoed through the cabin. Patricia's face burned with humiliation. She wasn't supposed to be the one being disciplined. She opened her mouth to protest, but before she could get a word out, Daniel reached into his pocket. He pulled out a leather case, flipped it open, and raised it. The light caught the gold emblem of an FBI badge. The atmosphere inside the plane shifted instantly. Passengers gasped. A few chuckled. The young woman recording zoomed in without hesitation. Daniel's voice was level and unreadable. He said smoothly, would you like to file an official complaint? I can take your statement right now. Patricia froze, breath caught in her throat. She said nothing. Daniel didn't blink. Didn't move. Just waited. And for the first time, Patricia realized she was truly cornered. But this wasn't just embarrassment, she was about to face real consequences. The silence in the plane was suffocating. All eyes were locked on her. The golden FBI badge on Daniel's lap gave the moment undeniable weight. Whispers turned to wide stares. Some people smiled. Others were stunned into silence. Patricia's mouth went dry. Her thoughts scrambled. And there was no way out. She was desperate for an excuse, any way to escape. This wasn't how things were meant to unfold. The man she had just tried to get removed from the plane, the one she had subtly labeled a threat, was actually a federal agent. Her throat tightened. Daniel's face hadn't changed. He wasn't gloating or smirking. He just sat there, holding his badge, eyes locked onto hers, waiting. His tone was calm, composed, unreadable. Would you like to make a formal complaint? He asked. The words hung in the air like a ticking time bomb. Patricia felt paralyzed. Her skin flushed hot, heat rising up her neck. She tried to respond, but only managed to faint. Breathless eyes. Daniel tilted his head slightly. You said you didn't feel safe, he continued, voice still courteous, but edged with firmness. That's a serious statement, especially on a federal flight. If I've acted inappropriately, I'd be happy to take your full statement. Patricia's stomach lurched. The situation was unraveling. Just moments ago, she had shaped the narrative, expecting others to rally to her side. Now, she was the one under the spotlight. A man 2 rows ahead chuckled quietly. "This is gold," he murmured, shaking his head. The young woman recording zoomed in on Patricia's stunned face. Emily, the lead flight attendant, stood by with folded arms, her face neutral but her eyes sharp, waiting. Watching. Patricia's breathing was rapid and shallow. She couldn't admit she'd lied, not now. But if she kept going, she'd be accusing a federal officer of posing a threat on board, a move that could have serious repercussions. Her hands trembled. Daniel never broke eye contact. After an endless pause, Patricia gave the slightest shake of her head. "No," she whispered. "No complaint." Daniel gave a small nod, as if he'd expected that answer. Slowly, he closed the badge case, slipped it back into his coat, and resumed typing on his laptop. Just like that, it was finished, for him. For Patricia, the fallout was just beginning. Some passengers murmured softly. A few even applauded. Across the aisle, the businessman went back to his paper. The young woman with the phone. She was already writing. Patricia's heart pounded. She wanted to disappear, to erase the last 10 minutes. But there was no undoing this. The embarrassment wasn't private. It had been seen. Filmed. Shared. She glanced around, hoping for a friendly face, some hint of sympathy. Nothing. Even Emily's professionalism had cooled. Patricia swallowed the lump in her throat. She wanted to speak, to regain control, but she knew it was already too late. The flight hadn't even lifted off, and she had already lost. But it wasn't just shame, Patricia was about to deal with real consequences. She sat stiff and silent, facing forward, face burning. Her breaths were quick and shallow. Daniel had moved on, laptop open again, calmly typing as though nothing had happened. But everyone else remembered. The businessman smirked. The woman with the phone hadn't stopped filming, just waited, ready. Even the flight crew, once neutral, now held her in different regard. Emily stood nearby, watching. Patricia could feel the judgment in the air, silent but heavy. She had badly misjudged the situation. This wasn't a misunderstanding she could laugh off. She had tried to have a federal agent removed from first class, on camera. The consequences now pressed down on her. Emily finally stepped closer, voice polite but firm. "I need to confirm that you're okay to stay on board without further incident." Patricia tensed. Passengers leaned in, pretending not to listen, but they were all tuned in. She wanted to lash out, to protest being treated like the problem. But Daniel's badge had flipped everything. The power she thought she had. Gone? She forced a tight smile. "I'm fine." Emily watched her for a beat, then nodded. "I'm going to hold you to that." She walked away. Patricia exhaled shakily, clutching her hands together. It felt over. But it wasn't. A soft chime sounded. Patricia looked over. The young woman with the phone smirked at her screen and tapped twice. Her stomach dropped. She recognized that look. Her grandkids wore it when they posted something viral. Heart racing, Patricia peeked at the screen. The video had already been uploaded. Her breath caught in her chest. The title was short, brutal. Racist woman tries to kick black man out of first class, turns out he's FBI. Her fingers went numb. The flight hadn't even left the ground, and she had already lost. And if the clip was online, there was no stopping what came next. She turned forward, trying to calm her breathing. Maybe it won't spread. Maybe no one will see it. Then her purse buzzed. Once. Twice. 3 times. She didn't want to look, but her hands moved automatically. She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and froze. Texts. Dozens. From friends. From relatives. From people she hadn't spoken to in years. All saying the same thing, Patricia, is this you? Just saw a video. Please tell me this isn't real. Oh my God. What did you do? Her ears rang. Her vision blurred. She opened her browser, hands shaking. She tapped open Twitter. It took just a moment. Her name was already trending. The video had only been up for 5 minutes, yet it had already surpassed 20,000 views. And the comments were flooding in. Patricia's vision swam as she read the first few. Karma's real. She really thought she'd get away with it. Hope the internet roasts her alive. Her breath caught. Her world wasn't just crumbling, it was on fire. And for the first time, she realized there was no undoing this. But what awaited her after landing was worse than she could have imagined. Patricia clutched her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. The background chatter on the plane faded beneath the pounding of her pulse. She could hardly breathe. The video kept spreading, the view count climbing with every refresh. 30,000, 42,000, 61,000, it wouldn't stop. Frantic, she scanned the comments. Imagine being this entitled. She really tried it. That FBI twist made my day. Someone expose her name. Her chest tightened. She looked around, hoping for an escape, but no one was watching her anymore. They didn't need to. They already knew. Beside her, Daniel remained calm, typing casually on his laptop. If he knew about the video, he didn't show it. He didn't need to. That hurt even more. Her phone buzzed again. She flinched. It was her sister. Patricia stared at the screen, hesitated, then declined the call. She couldn't face that conversation. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The plane hadn't even touched down, and her life was already spiraling. She forced a deep breath. She needed a strategy. Maybe an apology. No, that would just add fuel. Maybe she could ignore it. Worse? Her thoughts spiraled until the pilot's voice broke through the cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, we are starting our descent into Washington, D.C. The time is 5:43 p.m. Please fasten your seatbelts as we prepare for landing. Her heart sank. In all the chaos, she had forgotten the nightmare waiting once she stepped off the plane. She refreshed one last time, 97,000 views. Still hoping to fix this, she shoved her phone into her bag. Maybe it wouldn't be as bad as it looked. Maybe people would forget. But Patricia's illusion shattered the moment she turned on the news. The second the plane doors opened, Patricia bolted. She ignored the stares, the whispers, the judgment. She just wanted to get out. But when she reached the baggage area, her steps faltered. A small crowd of reporters stood near the carousel. One woman, speaking into a microphone, read off her phone as a cameraman filmed. The now viral video shows a woman trying to remove an FBI agent from first class, claiming discomfort. The clip has crossed 1 million views in just a few hours. 1 million. Patricia stopped breathing. She spun quickly, praying no one had recognized her. But it was too late. A reporter locked eyes with her and lit up. Wait, that's her. Panic surged. She turned and rushed toward the exit, her heels clacking loudly on the floor. Her phone vibrated relentlessly, texts, calls, alerts. She couldn't escape it. She pushed through a crowd, barely catching her breath, and stumbled to the curb just as someone shouted, "Miss Langford, do you have any comment on the video?" Her stomach dropped. Her name had been released. A cab pulled up, and she practically dove inside. "Go," she barked at the driver. He blinked but pulled away without question. Patricia pressed her palms to her temples. Her head throbbed. 1 million views. She had spent a lifetime building her name, her image, her standing. And in a single afternoon, it was all gone. Her phone buzzed again, a number she didn't recognize. She hesitated, then answered. "Miss Langford. James Rollins, from the Marston Foundation. I assume you've seen the video." Patricia's throat went dry. She had served on their board for years, an organization known for diversity, ethics, and inclusion. She knew what was coming. "James, I will need your resignation," he cut in. It wasn't a suggestion. She stared blankly ahead. "This is being taken out of context," she said weakly. "The board disagrees," he replied. Flatly. "We'll release a statement tomorrow. We expect your resignation by then." Click. He had hung up. Her hand slowly dropped. Her career, over? Her reputation, ruined. And nobody cared about her side of the story. The video had been enough. She exhaled shakily. This wasn't a scandal she could spin. It was a mess she had created, and now had to live with. Meanwhile, Daniel Stokes hadn't even spared her a second glance. He was probably already in a meeting, calm, respected, and completely untouched. Because for him, this had just been another Tuesday.